Jessica Jones Season 3, and this is the last in the Netflix Marvel series. And how did it do? Now, I'm not going to go too much into the plot here. Suffice it to say, it is better than the second season, which I thought was quite poor, but not nearly as good as the first season. To give you a very kind of loose plot here, this season really focuses on the relationship between Jessica Jones, played by Krysten Ritter, and her best friend slash surrogate kind of sister, Patsy, played by Rachel Taylor. And in the last season, we saw kind of Patsy kind of potentially get kind of superpowers. Now in the comics, she is actually a real character called Hellcat. And she wants to become a superhero herself. And she, unlike Jessica, is embracing this. Now, her path to becoming a superhero may be somewhat rocky. Add to this, you have this serial killer who is kind of like Dexter, is the best way I can describe it. It's kind of like serious, kind of like bookwormish type guy who's super intelligent, etc., and very clever. Anyway, and he's the kind of the main villain, I suppose. But really, there are other elements involved in this as well, particularly that pertains to Patsy, a Trish Walker, and yeah. So that's the kind of the basic plot here. So what works first of all? For me, I think Krysten Ritter is fantastic. She actually directed an episode in this kind of in this series, which was quite well done. Actually, it puts kind of Trish in the kind of the driver's seat as the kind of the main character. But I think the relationship is the kind of the key to this season. It's a very interesting relationship, and to me that was the most interesting thing about this season. There's some interesting new characters. I really like the kind of the new love interest that Jessica Jones has. This kind of guy who also has powers, which I won't spoil for you. But I kind of liked his kind of like sardonic kind of attitude, and I thought he was actually quite a good kind of mix with Jessica Jones. He's quite funny as well. There's actually one of my favourite scenes in this season is where this guy and Trish have this kind of conversation about how they've messed up a certain kind of situation and make matters even worse, and their kind of reactions to it I thought was actually quite funny, considering the gravity of the situation. There's a kind of smattering of other kind of new characters as well, which I don't think works quite as well. Carrie-Anne Moss has a big role here. She kind of has her own kind of B plot really about kind of a love interest for her, and she's always good on screen. She's a very powerful actress, I actually think, and probably a little bit underrated. So that was quite good. We do have a cameo from someone else to do with the kind of the Netflix Marvel stuff, but don't be expecting this particular season to kind of wrap things up in any particular way. I think you see a bit more powers in this one than maybe some of the other sort of seasons. What doesn't work, I feel our main bad guy, the serial killer, is very generic serial killer. It's really just kind of like, let's take every kind of cliche that a serial killer is like, this kind of very serious, sort of like expressionless guy who's into photography and, collects worms and things, and it's just like, he's a kind of like, he's athletic, but he's kind of like very average looking, and he kind of has this jealous thing where, he thinks good looking people are kind of given an unfair advantage and things like this. So I thought whilst he wasn't terrible, he was somewhat kind of cliche. The main issue with this one is the first half of this season is incredibly dull. So it doesn't really kind of get moving. It's one of the big critiques with these Netflix shows is they're too long. And this one definitely has some serious kind of padding. And I think it does peak in kind of like this sort of episode kind of 10. But I actually think the conclusion is fairly weak as well. The last couple of episodes, the last episode especially, it kind of just goes. It makes a jump from a character which is fairly which has been built up, but it seems to take a very kind of like a dramatic jump, and I don't know. It didn't quite work for me without kind of giving you any spoilers. But I do feel this is certainly better than the second season of Jessica Jones, which was completely forgettable. But the first season of Jessica Jones is an absolute classic, if you ask me. So it's in between those two. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's okay. It's a decent watch. It's well made. You do see a bit more powers, but there's a lot of padding. You know, there's a lot of kind of talking. I mean, Netflix, I think maybe we're kind of winding down at this point. Didn't spend a lot of money on a lot of these episodes. So yeah, it's a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.